Musa Valdez. I defended research masters on the 13th of March 2024 in the Advanced of Mass Communication. And this master dissertation was titled Health Crisis and its Effects on Mobile Telephone Enterprises in Cameroon, with focus point on MTN and Orange Cameroon. Having observed the disturbances, the worries, and the dissonance that was created by the coronavirus pandemic, having realized the tragedy of Cameroonian enterprises, to use the words of Professor Onwaburi to describe the situation, we wanted to understand how giant enterprises like MTN and Orange Cameroon behaved during this period. We wanted to understand in what way their speeches were emitted. How did they react during this period? Did they remain constant? Did they modify to adapt to the prevalent situation? And for us to realize that, we actually mobilized a theoretical corpus of 70 posters of MTN and Orange within this coronavirus period. And for us to efficiently carry out our study, we had to choose 3 time frames that we used in the course of our work. We have what we call the period before COVID-19, that is from June 2019 to February 2020, that is for the period before COVID-19. And we had the first phase of COVID-19, that is from March 2020 to June 2020. And we had the third phase that we call the period after the first phase, from June to September 2020. And for us to efficiently realize this, we had to summon 2 theoretical frameworks. We used the communication model of Roman Jacobson, specifically the notion of context as the referential function of Jacobson that stipulates that communication has a sense only in a particular context. Considering that, we want to understand the way these 2 mobile telephone enterprises communicated during the COVID-19 context. That is why we summoned the referential function of Roman Jacobson. And added to that, we summoned the notion of ends used by Dell in his communication model to show that each approach used by these enterprises during this period had a specific objective. Now, after carrying out a thorough context analysis, because we have to analyze 70 posters of these 2 enterprises within the 3-mentioned period, and on these 70 posters we had to extract the textual and the iconic element that we thoroughly examined to realize or to see if these enterprises remained constant or if they modified their species. And we realized for the case of MTN that for the period before COVID-19, that is from June 2019 to February 2020, their speeches were all based on their commercial purposes, that is the selling of their different services, mobile data, credit, SMS, and all the like. But during the first phase of COVID, from March to June 2020, we realized a shift, a paradigm shift in the communication of MTN. That is, they had to remodify, and at that moment they pursued a second objective, that was a social one added to their normal commercial objective. And how do we realize that they pursued a second social objective? Now we realized that their messages were being modified. The textual and the iconic element in their poster now integrated sensitization messages against COVID-19. And the third period is the period after the phase 1, that is from June to September 2020. MTN still remained in the same constant by still using textual and iconic elements to continue sensitizing the population, considering that at that moment it was circulating around that COVID has ended. Meanwhile, they still have not lifted the barrier measures. That's for the case of MTN. Concerning Orange Cameroon, we realized that during the phase before COVID, they had only commercial. Just like MTN, during the first phase, they equally had commercial and social. Just like MTN, they introduced commercial aspect in their social aspect, in their communication, textual and iconic. Meanwhile, during the period, which is the phase after phase 1, from June to September, we realized that unlike MTN, Orange deviated back to their initial commercial purposes, abandoning social objectives, because we could not find social messages sensitizing the people population against COVID-19, and this actually gave us the impression that the message we were passing across that it has ended. Meanwhile, the state kept on emphasizing on respect of barrier measures. So at the end of the day, we are satisfied. We were able to realize this study in 160 pages, and we have decided to pursue our career, that is a PhD, by still remaining in the aspect, the domain of contextual communication. This time around, it might not be COVID-19, which for me seems to be outdated already. We can base on another social phenomenon of problematic, but we want to better explore the domain of context when it comes to communication.